Hello folks, my name is Tarah Wheeler Van Vlack and this is Tarah Talks. I am the CEO of Fizzmint, an HR automation company here in Seattle. I'm also one of the co-founders and a board member for Hack the People, the world's largest tech mentorship initiative. I take mentorship very seriously and I want you to think of me as one of your mentors. I broadcast every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. Pacific. You can see all the past and future talks at thetarah.com/Tarah Talks. I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes. And right after that, I'll start answering questions live from you. You can see the little QA application in this Hangout and can use it to ask questions from this point onward and vote on the questions you want me to see answered. If you're on YouTube, enjoy the show. This week, June 11th, if I'm correct on the date, which sometimes I'm not, is what it's really like being a female tech CEO. And this is one of those it's a tough topic to talk about because what I'm going to do is basically relay my experience to you. It's going to be different than other people's, but I think that there's enough commonalities in what I experience to let a lot of people know what it's like to get to this point in a tech startup. So I have basically three major topic areas to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the weird stuff that I've noticed. I've just got this list that I've been compiling over the last week of like 10 weird things that happen to me now that never happened before. I'll talk about some of the big kind of anecdotal evidence I have for more about what life at this kind of position is like. And finally, I will give some additional things that are just encouragements and some milestones for people who want to form their own company and stick CEO on the business card. And as we're going today, just remember that your qualification for being a CEO is putting it on your business card and making it stick. And that means everybody, and that includes you. All right, so first of all, the weird stuff that happens to me because I'm a tech CEO, and specifically because I'm female, although there's a couple of things I think are a little bit more universal. The absolute number one thing that you will notice that changes, especially after you have been in the position for a little bit and people start to get used to you by that name is, and your title, is your relationships change. They change much more than you think they will. I am aware that this is going to be something that a lot of people are going to experience in the CEO role. I don't know how much of it is related to me being female, but I know that it's huge. Your relationships will change in that the people that you're closest to, you will learn to trust more because you're going to need them to carry more of the emotional burden in the relationship. You will find yourself a peer of people that you don't think of yourself as a peer of, and that's a very weird thing to experience. Having someone greet you by name, expect you to call them by first name, and you've always thought of this person as a hero or a mentor, and you're first meeting them, and they know who you are. It's a weird experience, and it's one that can be really emotionally weird to handle. You also learn to trust whoever your partner is a lot more when it comes to the feedback that you get from people on how you're living your life and whether or not you're doing a good job with being a friend or calling your mom. By the way, hi mom, sorry about last week. Number two, I would say everything becomes a little bit work. Everything that you do starts to be a little bit about your company. And I mean everything, your leisure time, your exercise, your friend groups, your entertainment choices, everything starts to feed into this experience of trying to get something off the ground. And we're off the ground and kind of the first engine's firing at this point. So everything that I do in some way, shape, or form has to do with that, and it's just odd. Every party I go to, doesn't matter who, there's always something in the back of my mind saying, we need another Python developer. Just ask and see if there's a Python dev out there somewhere. Number three, yes, you learn to be okay with saying no to people, even if the only thing that you want to do is hang out at home and watch Forsyte Saga or Downton Abbey with tea and biscuits in sweats. You have to start saying no very quickly to people or your time is going to get eaten. You need to learn to cope with the way that people will expect and hope that you will continue to be part of their life in a way that you were before you started this great challenge that you're embarked on. And I have learned to not, in the same way that I'm a poker player, and a lot of you folks know that, in the same way that you don't look for reasons to stay in the hand, you look for reasons to get out of the hand. You start by changing your frame of reference and looking for reasons to say no when people invite you to things instead of to say yes. And it's because you must defend your emotional and physical and spiritual and mental well-being and get enough rest. And if you don't, jealously guard that rest time and be okay with saying no to something big so that you can stay at home and eat cookies, then you're going to be exhausted. So saying no to stuff, that frame of reference shift is a little weird. Ooh, this one's a weird one. People really listen to you. Really, really listen to you in a way that I have not experienced before. I'm used to running my mouth, to being sarcastic, to occasionally being bitchy. Yes, I know, I heard that occasionally coming out of 17 people's mouths. And I can't speculatively riff on things anymore without people taking me very seriously. I have to be careful when I tweet, when I post things, because I may or may not be offending someone or revealing something that they didn't know, and they're really paying attention. I recently was interviewed for a magazine article. It was just this last week, and every word I said had to be so carefully formulated in my head. You find yourself, when you're doing something like that, stopping and thinking, what is this going to look like in sentence form when someone retweets it? And people pay attention, and they'll do it. And so you be careful, even when you're having coffee with just a friend, they're listening. Done is better than perfect, and that means everything. Everything that you do in your life, done has got to be better than perfect. So the extremely cunning hat that I'm wearing today, I'm not taking it off, because the only chance I had to do some exercise today was just before this broadcast, which means that rather than trying to be completely perfect in my appearance and have my hair all did like I normally do, I stuck a hat on. So you learn tricks like that to be okay with yourself and with the best that you can do at that moment in time without looking back. This is really lonely. Number 6 on my list is it's a really lonely job to do. And a lot of it has to do with being taken, your words being taken more seriously than they have ever been taken before. If people are really truly paying attention to you, it means you have to guard your speech. Be very careful about how you talk to friends, to colleagues, to peers, mentors, subordinates. And if you're not careful, you face some dire consequences. And yet, that also means that you start to get a habit of asking yourself what is the purpose of a conversation, even when you're having it with a friend or a relative, and saying, am I too tired to do this right now? Am I engaging on all 8 cylinders? And there's this extra layer that happens when you start to engage in a job like this that makes you separate away from people a little bit. So get some friends. And like I mentioned, always and always, I play poker. And so I have a group of women that I play poker with, and that's a way to really cut loose with people that I can't shock. Believe me, I can't shock them, and they are at a same or similar level of development in their lives and careers as me, and it works really well to have that kind of a friend group. Number 7, people knowing you before you know them is weird, and it starts to make you really cautious about turning around when people say hey to you on the street. You have to be careful to conduct yourself always in a way that is, that you wouldn't be scared to see yourself in public with. A good example is there have been people who've taken pictures of me on the street and on public transportation when I was not prepared in any way, shape, or form to have my picture taken. And people will find a way to make things about them and not you. So it's the random stranger thing. It's still a little freaky. Let's see here. Number 2 on my major list of things to talk about. Where did this one go? Oh, I was going to do the anecdotes last, I think. Okay, so here's the way to Oh wait, no, this was it. Okay, this is the stuff about the stories that I've seen, the anecdotes I've got for you. The sexism in technology really is that bad, and most of it is completely and totally unconscious. You will almost never find somebody, and I know there's all these publicized incidences of sexism in technology. All of the sexism in technology that you're going to ever see exploding on Twitter, other than some extremely chancy stuff like maybe Pax Dickinson, who was actually a misogynist, is all going to be totally unconscious. I mean, nobody at Yahoo had any idea it was totally inappropriate to hire naked women to dance on their platform at whatever tech event it was 2 years ago they did that. Nobody at TechCrunch, the Disrupt event in San Francisco last year, thought it was at all inappropriate to have an app out there called Titstare that they were presenting on the main stage. So it's unconscious, and yet it is that bad. You will be the only woman in the room. 2% of venture-funded companies are women-owned. Assume you're not going to get any. Just assume it, and plan your company in realizing that. I believe her name was Ellen Pao, and Ellen Pao is the associate or the partner at, I think it was Kleiner Perkins, who sued based on some gender discrimination that she saw there and experienced herself. And when you've got the partners in venture firms themselves suing those companies for sexism, you're not going to see a lot of confidence in VC outfits in women leadership in tech companies. I am going to anecdotally relate that women are, and there's not statistics on this, but people have been talking about it lately, that women founders of tech companies are replaced at twice the rate that male founders of tech companies are replaced. So you don't just have to worry about taking VC, you also have to worry about being replaced more rapidly and for a smaller reason than a male co-founder would have been fired for that. A lot of women they're founding companies now, which is completely awesome. Over the last year or two, the number of women who've started companies is amazing. I'm not seeing that in the subject matter as far as the women who are founding companies. And when I say that, I mean I can count on one hand the number of companies that don't have a traditionally female-based focus in their subject matter. I'm talking things like retail or fashion or social media. Many of these women-owned companies are founded along those lines. And to be frank, there's a lot of reasons why Liz and I chose to create a company that we could convincingly be part of. There's a lot of different options for women to start companies, and yet you have to choose one that, if you have a certain goal in mind, is one that you can build people's confidence in with your ability as a leader. So I think a lot of women not only create that for their companies, but they also take that into account when considering the subject matter for the company in which they want to be part of. And I've sufficiently, I hope, talked around that issue enough to let you know that if you want to found a company that can be VC backed, the big ones that I see women succeeding in are social media and fashion retail. And maybe that's just a function of the number of women who are involved in the subject matter of those companies. So, I mean, we need more of them, and there's a lot of cross-gender stuff happening where men are founding social media, fashion, and retail companies as well. Hey, whatever works for you. I am drinking the most it's called Sadaf tea today, and it's this cardamom tea I picked up at the Indian grocery around the corner from me, and it is amazing. So it's brand new tea day for me. Yep, that's about it on the things that you want to keep an eye out for, and here are some of the things that I took into account and might have wished I knew a little bit more about before I really got started. So I and my co-founder we're in a position where the economic contributions we make to our families are very important. And I'm not going to stick labels on things like who earns what or describe more of the familial situation we have going on than is necessary, but assume that our contributions to our families are very important. I have no children, and I have never seen a female tech CEO with especially in the startup world, with young children who didn't already have the capacity to have a nanny or a stay-at-home partner. This is going to be a little controversial to talk about, but the truth is that if I had kids, and I'm not going to speak for all women here, if I had children, there is no way that I would be able to do this. I have a profoundly supportive partner who is amazing. My husband is just spectacular in every way. And the relationships that I have built have let me do this. I knew that if I was going to have kids in the way that I would like to do it, I'd like to do a good job at most of the things that I do. Done is better than perfect is, I mean, I guess it's true when it comes to kids, but maybe it's not the greatest idea on that decision to start with. I couldn't have done it with children, and the level of commitment that I see people bringing to what they're doing and doing well it's very difficult to sustain that when you have a lot of relationships that demand a great deal of you. My husband can take care of me sometimes, and if we were to have kids, we would always be taking care of them at some level. So I can't do that, and I've never seen a woman pull it off. I know of a couple of women, I think two. Marissa Meyer is one with a very small baby, and yet we know that she's got all of the cash in the world to have nannies and have an extra nursery built next to her office. That's not an option for a lot of startup tech CEOs. It's more expensive to be a female in tech. Be prepared for that. It is. There's additional expenses that are weird about being a female executive in technology. You will have to have a wardrobe that is more carefully chosen, or like me, you can standardize down to black on black with black t-shirts and some black shoes and maybe some black socks and possibly a black, camisole and a black cardigan and maybe a black hat to go over the top of it and some black glasses. But the truth is that your outfits will have to be carefully chosen and cleaned and handled, and it just costs more. It costs more to put makeup on. There's a cognitive and time-based burden on being female that's going to cause you more and more irritation the higher you get in technology in terms of your title. So be aware of that and have the extra wherewithal to handle that, because whatever expenses you are bearing as a female, period, in our society, they'll double, triple, quadruple when you end up in a position to be in charge of other people. Socializing and pitching. Oh yes, socializing and pitching and having meetings with people takes on a weird sexualized dimension sometimes. There's a lot of conversations happening now over how people socialize and get dates at tech meetups, that is apparently a thing. I am married, so I get to skip a lot of that. But I have seen and experienced issues where what would be comfortable and appropriate for a man is not appropriate and comfortable for me. I have seen men before make the deliberate choice to not invite me to their hotel room to have a conversation in a way that they would do with any other dude that walked up to them and said, I'd love a chance to pitch you. And they say, I'm walking up to my hotel room, just walk with me along the way. I see them stop and ask themselves if it's going to be a problem, and I get something like a business card telling me, tell you what, hit me up tomorrow and we'll find some time to have a cup of coffee down in the lobby, or something along those lines. This happens at conferences, it happens at meetups. There's just this additional dimension to it that it's a time suck and it's a problem. Sheryl Sandberg talks a lot about this in Lean In, and what it is like to have that question of the sexualized component in the relationships. Yep. So a lot of the advice that I would give women when it comes to creating themselves as a CEO in the tech startup ecosystem is a lot of the problems that I've discussed, issues, I'm trying to get rid of the word problems in my vocabulary, a lot of the issues I've discussed are weird one-percenter kinds of problems, right? I mean, it's how is it an issue to have people pay more attention to what you say? How is it an issue to have people really listen to you or recognize you on the street? What I'm talking about is an additional cognitive burden and an additional kind of emotional experience that a lot of women are not socialized to prepare for when it comes to leadership. So it's a strange transition, and to do it and to do it well, be very in touch with yourself, with what your needs are, and make sure that you look down the line and be okay with the choices that you're making right now. If you are, have a ball, go for it. And at the same time, if you are looking for support, if you're looking for a conversation about it, first, I'm always here. Second of all, you might consider whatever it is that you do. I don't care if it's bowling or poker or golf or any kind of leisure activities you do. For all I care, crochet. But find a group of people that are not only at the same kind of job title that you are, but also heading in the same direction that you are. And you'll find yourself more able to cope with the kinds of slings and arrows that will come your direction for looking a little different than what most people think of as a tech CEO. Wear t-shirts and jeans if you want to, by the way. Okay, I have like 6 or 7 questions, but weirdly not as many this week, which is why I talked a little bit longer. You, again, can ask questions in the Hangout bar thing, and I will see them and I will answer them here. Okay, so the first question I got was, have you ever been, yes, have you ever been hit on by an investor? And the answer to that question is yes, and yet at the same time, I think it was more of a situation where the person thought they were paying me a compliment. So this goes back to the conversation we were having about the sexualized nature sometimes of the relationships between men and women, even when you really, really don't want there to be. I became a tech CEO, a startup CEO, after I was married, and a lot of women will experience that when you put a ring on, the attention is gone. That actually happened. Probably 98% of the attention I received from men, the average kind of stuff on the street or whatever, anything in close personal quarters when they could see I was wearing a ring was gone, completely gone. Weirdly, my husband got hit on more. I have no idea how that's happening, but I've been informed and I will be cutting people. So yes, you have to be careful about some of the sexualized components of the relationships you're developing with people. I am completely not even discussing the nature of being a lesbian when it comes to being a tech CEO. That's going to be a unique experience all by itself because, I mean, just with the statistics, it's going to be also extremely difficult to find other women in tech who are also homosexual. So best of luck, and I've got a couple of introductions to make for you if you want to email me and we can see what we could do about a mentorship group there. The best advice I can give for you is prepare in advance, not only what you will say in a situation like that, but set up the event in advance. That thing where they don't invite you to the hotel room, that's okay, because you can parlay that. Instead, they're going to feel guilty and weird that they're conceiving of you as a sexualized object as opposed to someone that should be a business partner. Turn it into a coffee meeting instead. You'll actually get more of their time. It's not a bad way to go. Tell them it seems like this isn't a good time for you. Don't mention it, obviously, but it seems like it's not a good time for you. How about I buy you a cup of coffee tomorrow morning at the Starbucks down in the lobby, and we'll have this conversation then. Is 10:30 a.m. good for you? Be prepared with your time and with your proposal. Have it written down on your business card and get their business card. That's how to twist that. And other than that, best of luck to you. I mean, there's all of the strategies out there that women have used previously to avoid that kind of attention. I'm not providing any kind of suggestions here. I'm just telling you what my experience has been. I would say that it's going to get a lot better, especially as more women start coming into the ranks of the top echelons of tech leadership. So it's something that's changing, and I think it's changing pretty quickly. Even Sheryl Sandberg's experience is a little bit outdated, I think. And question number 2 that I got was, oh, that's a really good question. Why are you a CEO? How did you get to be a CEO? Was basically the question once I summarize it. How did you know you were ready to be a CEO? How did you get there? That is a very interesting question. I'm a CEO because I know what we need to do. I know it just to the core of my being. I have a spectacular co-founder Her name is Liz Dahlstrom, and I completely and totally trust her. And when she and I knew, we worked together for a long time, when she and I knew what it was that we were going to do, we knew that HR automation was the way to go, that it could save time, save lives, save energy, that it would be a spectacular addition to people's business plans. We knew at that point that there would be a major division of labor between us. I have this skill set that I've developed from a very young age, not only in technology, but in public speaking, in writing, in communications. I started as a human communications major before I headed over to the dark side with international relations and strategic studies. And she's a much better engineer than I am. I mean, seriously, she's a much better coder. Every once in a while, I get tired of what I have to do with all the running around to networking events and handshaking and smiling. Your face will hurt a little bit the first couple of months because you'll be really unused to smiling really big all the time. And I wanted to develop myself, my executive capacity, my leadership skills. I knew this is the direction I wanted to take my life. And I knew, and Liz knew, that this was the role that I should be taking in the company. And without any doubt, she kicks my ass on the technical level. And she's a good leader with a product vision, with the technology in her. She keeps the entire structure of the company in her brain. Seriously, she's an amazing person. So I ended up as the CEO because I chose to be here, because I chose, with the set of skills that I have, with my life choices, to develop myself in this direction. So this is not an accident, and I'm not going to pretend that it is because of some kind of false modesty or the kind of aw shucks sort of public persona that many women who end up in high office give off. I didn't end up here. I chose to be here. I picked to put it on my business card, and I made it stick. I did that with a lot of help, and I did it with, hopefully, gratitude for the people that have assisted me, and I'm paying it back as fast as I possibly can. I'm trying to pay it back right now, as you might have noticed. So that is how I ended up as a CEO. I chose to be here, and I would do nothing different with my life. There is nothing different that I would do. I love every minute of this. Every minute that I hate, I still love. Every minute where I'm tired of plastering a smile on my face, I still see the vision and the strategy in my head for what it is that we're doing. And when you get to this point, that will also be what changes you. When you know there's something that needs doing and you think you're the right person to do it. Liz likes to say that the qualification for doing something is doing something. She said, what was it she said? Oh, I wanted to do a session. I will be doing a session to help women hackers propose for DEF CON 23 of next year. I'm going to do a web session. I'll announce that sometime soon. And I said, I don't know what, just in a moment that happens, I said, I don't know, I mean, what qualifies me? I proposed once for DEF CON and I got turned down. Sure, I've spoken at a couple of other security conferences, and I've spoken at God knows how many academic and other kinds of conferences. But, I mean, what makes me qualified to help people propose to DEF CON? I mean, obviously there's people joining in. And she said, what makes you qualified to do this is that you're doing it. And every once in a while, I need her to remind me of that, because you're going to break new ground in your personality and your relationships and the way you see yourself every single day. You will change faster than you possibly imagined with your society, your views, your personhood, your education, the way that you relate to the world. And the thing that you hang on to is that you can see it happening. You made the choice to be here. And if you made the choice to be here, you're ready to be a CEO. I think that is going to do it for us today. Thank you very much. I will talk to you all again next week. Oh, wait, no. Next week there is no Tarah Talk. I will be traveling to DC, and I will see you folks later on. Enjoy yourselves.